Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in again. And then we're going to go over this slider here real quick. I'm just going to show you some things real quick on here as far as what I did. It's basically just a slider. It's at a 30-degree kind of a slant, if you will. And you just kind of stroke your mouse over and it kind of gives you a slider effect on what is overlapping and stuff like that. Can you change the colors on this? Yes, you can. I went with just basically white and black and a little bit of orange just to highlight and differentiate the layers here. So I went with the Tesla model. I took the images from just Google Images and just kind of photoshopped my own version of what I did here. And so I can go through that and go with that with you, but that's really not important right now. But I'll have all these files in the project files down below. So if you click on those and download those, you can go ahead and follow along and kind of do your own little thing. And like I said, some of this stuff is just do your own thing. Don't try to copy somebody else, but just code your own kind of version of what I'm teaching you here. And it'll give you an idea of like how code works, how to manipulate it, what to put in there, things like that. So if you ever like wondered like how does that work? How does this stuff all come together? And how do people build websites and what is code and stuff like that? A great place to learn is right here where I can just give you the project files. You open it up in a Sublime text editor like I have here, and you can start looking at like the index.html, which is basically the front page of your doc type HTML. And basically you can just go down and figure out what the divs are, how it's divided up basically, and layers and images, and just kind of see where everything is at and how does it reference your style.css. And that's this one right here. It's a separate folder, it's a separate file, and basically it reads all the margins and stuff like that. It's just basically how the server reads and configures your website to look the way it looks. So if that makes any sense to you, if it doesn't, if this is all just new to you and you're just not sure what all this stuff is, we'll go through that and kind of figure that out with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the project files that I have here. If I can find them, it's on my desktop. And this one is basically a split screen is what we're doing. So here you can see I have the CSS folder, the images, the index, and the JS. The index.html is always going to be outside of these folders. It's going to be its own little entity, if you will. It won't have a folder. It'll always reference two other folders, so if that makes sense. And then I have the images that I did in this Photoshop. And basically, I mentioned before, I do Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo is basically Apple's version to Photoshop. It's cheaper. It has all the bells and whistles to what Photoshop has. And basically, you can work it on a Mac. I don't think they have it for PC yet. I don't even think they have it. I think it's just for Apple products. And then I've got Affinity Designer, which is its own Illustrator, if you will, to Adobe products. Affinity Designer just works like any vector Illustrator would in Adobe products, if you will. So I'm going to open that up as well. And then basically the images are in the image file. We first started with these templates here. I don't really need these, so I'm going to get rid of them so you don't get confused. Alright. And these are my two images. Now I'm going to save these for you guys so you can have them in your files. And you can use these. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this Windows images. And I'm basically in Infinity Photo right now. So what I did was I basically took the background or a photo off Google of a Tesla car, put it in Infinity Photo, erased the background of it, and just put it in this circle right here. So you can see that it is definitely a PNG file now. And I put a circle around it, an ellipse, and that's basically it. It's just real basic stuff. It's nothing special. And then I basically saved it as a PNG file so the background does not show up. No white or anything like that. All you see is what you see in the photo. So now if I go back to, where am I going back to? The website itself, you can see these PNGs fit right in there without any obstruction of anything else. So if I had it with just a square white background in it, it would show like a white etching of it. It would just look not right for it. So if you're going to put pictures in, especially if you're highlighting a product or something like that, go with a PNG file if you're going to do it that way. That way the background's not in there and it's just, it shows what it has. So if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this window. We can quit Affinity Photo because we don't need to be in there. And I'm going back into the index HTML and Sublime Text 2. So go ahead and open up your Sublime Text 2. And all you do is drag the folder. I'll just start from scratch. I'll quit that. Now I'm just going to open up Sublime Text 2. So I'm just going to start from scratch so people don't get lost and whatnot. So I'm starting with a clean slate. And I go back to my project files that I have on my desktop, which is the split screen. I grab the folder and I'm just dragging it into the workspace. I can minimize that. I don't need that. And there are all the folders for that split screen project file that we have. So I've got the CSS in there. I can open those up. But I'm going to start with the index HTML. And that's basically the front end of that website, the construct, if you will, for that. So again, you guys, I've covered this before with you. You're always going to have in your index HTML, the doc type HTML. HTML language is going to be English, obviously. Now the head of this is important because that's where all your metadata goes and how the server reads your website in the index and how it's indexed into the server and the folders and stuff like that. So you're going to have your title in there. So when you have that title, it reads that in that tab. So split screen slider, that's where that comes from. Alright, so let's minimize that again. I don't need that window open. And then I'm going to have my style sheet, CSS style sheet. That's where that is. It's in that CSS folder, and it's going to index the style.css. So that's basically the meat and bones to this whole thing right here is the head section, how it reads your folders. Now I want to go in and create a body. Now the body is important because we got to have a body of work. If we don't have a body, there's nothing going to be displayed in your website at all. So I've got the first couple of divs. I actually made a section here. I call it wrapper class skewed. And the class layer is layer bottom, content wrap. And then from there, I took the top layer of that other div and just made it a top layer. And content wrap, content body, and then obviously I put an H1 tag in there, which is Tesla Model X. And then some lorem ipsum or hipster ipsum or whatever you like to put in there as far as a description goes. You can do that. So let's see, the Tesla, I'm just going to put something in here just to make it look a little bit more official. save it, go back into here, hit refresh, and then I've got my text right there, so you can read a little bit about that, and you know, basically it's just a little description on what that car is all about and stuff like that, whether it be a dress or a trinket or camping supplies or something that you want to highlight as far as like a product or a service, or you get the idea. You make this project your own. It's basically, you don't have to use the photos that I do. You can use your own, but this is kind of a nice little addition to like a page. Now, we don't have no like navigation bar up top or bottom. We don't have a footer. It's just a section of your website that we can use to highlight a product of some sorts. But this is a nice way to like get people to use your website and have more of an interactive user experience, basically. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if you want to keep it simple and basic, that's fine. If you want some nice little movement and animation to your website, it's all personal preference. It's like, what do I want on this website? Do I want to make it fancy? This is kind of cool that you have a slider and you can use like an interactivity with your website. I can put a button down where the text is at and well, maybe I can't because it doesn't really, there's no button. It just highlights. I'd have to custom make something. So if I got near the button, it would just stop and show the whole page of that product. So I can click the button. But that's pretty much it. Or have a couple of buttons below it to like sign up for a mailing list or stuff like that. So you kind of get the idea of like there's several different ways that you can use this as a display of a user experience and display and highlight a product or service. And then above or below it, put your calls to action and opt-ins as far as email address or whatever information that you're looking for. Okay? So if that gives you some ideas there. And then this bottom one right here, we can take this and make it our own. So the So I'm just writing things that are just kind of coming into my head. It's not true about whatever I just wrote, but basically I just put Tesla Model X is Tesla's latest crossover roadster. That is a fun and exciting way to get around town. It's 350 mile per charge. It's a great way to save money and impress your friends with its autopilot features and amenities. Pretty simple, standard little description of this car right here. And same thing for this Tesla Model S. As the first of Tesla models to be mass marketed to the public, is the most recognized Tesla car on the road today. With its 360 charge range. I forgot to put that in there, but this card is a great way to impress your friends and your wallet. So it doesn't say your wallet, but anyway, you get the idea. I'll correct that. Alright, so save that, go back, refresh the page, and then that stuff is saved. So I'm kind of doing this on the fly. So I have this open in a browser. It's a Chrome. So if you are doing any kind of computer or coding or anything like that, you can open your index HTML file. And I do recommend using Chrome because it's friendlier to coders. So you can kind of see the work that you're doing live and, right from your local host here from your computer. And that's pretty much it. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. It's not going to be hard for you guys to get the hang of it. Where's the JavaScript? The main JS is custom for wrapping and stuff like that because of the slider and the features to this. We had to do some custom stuff. This is going to be completely foreign to you guys. I have to admit, Java is not easy. It is very specific to, IDs and the classes that you're using with your styles and stuff like that with your CSS. And yeah, so that's kind of this right here. And you can play around with it and you can play with the numbers and stuff like that and see what happens. It's a great way to get familiar with it. But if you don't know JavaScript, don't even mess with it. Because if you screw something up in here, the whole thing goes kaput. That's how it's really difficult. Even for people that have done it for a while, it is a thinking man's little activity. It's just like a puzzle. And if you don't understand where you left off at or where you're at with your project, even like the smallest project such as this, it can throw you off. It's not an easy thing. So if you're learning JavaScript, I do recommend learning JavaScript, by the way. Just go to Team Treehouse where you can get like some class, or Udemy, or whatever is, Udemy is the most affordable, I would say. Udemy.com. They have like $10 classes. You can get the whole thing, like the basics of JavaScript and stuff like that. I do recommend you look at the trailer. They give you a small video introduction to look at, and that way you can kind of see what it's all about. If you like the instructor, sometimes they have broken English, things like that. So you want to sift through your instructors and make sure it resonates with you. Otherwise, you may not like that instructor. So kind of, do your homework first. But it is good and it's affordable. I use it. I go between Treehouse and Udemy with a lot of different things. It's a quick way to learn basic programming and get used to some of this stuff. But once you start getting the hang of it and making things your own, you can build onto this index, by the way. I can copy this section right here all the way down. Where am I at? So if I copy the section and then the closing bracket section, so just copy, paste, save, I can make a whole different addition to this website. So now I've got two sliders. I don't even know if this one's going to work because it's not programmed in for the second one. It's not. So you see right there, there's a problem. So what I can do is completely make this a whole different div where I can take, let's go back to our code, and let's see, where is it? Model X, I want that. I can take that first section, the first div, and get rid of it. So that's what I want to do. Get rid of that, save it, refresh, but still doesn't give me this. So now I got to go in and manipulate this line right here and get rid of that so it shows a whole page. And I'm going to have to probably get rid of excuse me, that right there. And just go back here, save. Oh no, it gets rid of that. So I've got a split here. Section. I want to get rid of the handle. Yeah, I gotta get rid of the handle. And this should. That's interesting. So I can divide that up somehow. Different things here. Okay, so you guys get the idea with that. We're just going to take a small break. I'll be right back with you. Okay, guys, I had to step away. Got interrupted, but since then, overnight, I added some stuff to this project here. I did add a nav bar with home blog news. This is just something that you guys can add in later in your own project if you wanted to. And I added a small little footer. It's just basically copyright, blah, blah. I just wanted to give it some space so it's not so blocky, and you can kind of differentiate where the slider's coming in at. So that's why I did that. But I'll add those into the project files as well. So this is a little bit different than the previous video tutorial that we were working on before. But now I'm back. We can continue this, and let's go back to our code. I did do some CSS with the nav, and you can see with the footer just a little bit. You don't need much. And then with the basically the nav here just starts at the top of the body within the body tag, and you just add a nav tag, a UL, which is an unordered list, and then you have a list item, that's what's LI, and then you have an href that's going to reference the home. So if you wanted to add another page to this this website, and then you click home or whatever, it'll just reference the home page. And then you got the blog, and then the blog can be a different page, and then news can be a different page. So blog and news is kind of the one and the same, but I guess you could do like contact or whatever. So let's add that in. So that'll change that. So if we refresh this here, and let's change that to contact. So you got home, blog, and contact. News and blog are kind of one and the same. I don't know why I put that there, but anyway, you get the idea. But this is basically it. I just wanted to demonstrate the slider function and how it works with JavaScript and stuff like that. It's a little bit complex. I mean, even if it as simple as it seems, as it looks, because we don't have a lot on that page, it's pretty complex as far as skewing it and adding the skew, the slant off to the right, which is basically a 30-degree slant. There is some complexity to this, so it kind of gives you some stuff to dig into and dive into and kind of pick it apart and reverse engineer, if you will, some of that stuff. So the images I'm going to keep for you and stuff like that. And basically I can go through images, but let's take a look at how I did that. So I'm going to minimize all these screens. I'm going to go back into, where's my split screen folder? Image, yeah, I kept that right there. So that's the project file for that. And I'm going to open up Affinity Photo. Those of you who are working on a Mac, Affinity Photo will work on a Mac. I don't think it works on PC. But you'll get the idea once we open it up. It'll take a minute here. And I'll have these project files. And I think I mentioned before earlier in the video of how Affinity Photo works and stuff like that. I just basically took I took away the ellipse. So basically what I did is I just took a photo from Google Images and traced out this just like as you would in Photoshop, and then took away the background and then copy and pasted it onto here, and now I have this version of this, more of a PNG kind of looking thing. And basically I added a ellipse circle around there just to kind of give it a 3D effect on the website, so it kind of gives you that it's coming out of the circle look, and also with the white one as well. And that's all I did with it, and it works really well. So if you get a chance to use Affinity Photo, it's really cheap. It's like $40 maybe to get it, and it works just like Photoshop, and they got an InDesign kind of thing that's called Affinity Designer. It's kind of this same as Illustrator. Works really, really well. So there's plenty of tutorials online for that, and you can look it up and see how that works for you. But that's basically how I did that. And then obviously there's the project files right here. You guys can get those in the download below. I'll have a link provided for you. And that's pretty much it, you guys. I mean, that's pretty much the split screen slider, if you will. If you guys like this tutorial and this walkthrough with what I did with this one, is give me some comments down below. Hit a like if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. So let me know. I can do more of like a website kind of thing and just go through like how to build a website, just common knowledge kind of stuff. And pretty much you can find these tutorials just about anywhere on YouTube. I'm just giving you my take on it and how I, reverse engineer them and get in there and add my own little flavor to them. But hope you like this one. I like it. The split screen effect is kind of handy for people that have products or services, and you can show your clients if you're in a business or something like that and how this works, and maybe they can implement this into their own projects, if you will. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off here, and you guys have a great day, and thanks for checking it out again. So talk to you later. Bye.